You know, there's a lot going on in the market right now, and on the Loan Maven Show, we talk every week about mortgages. We talk about everything related to mortgages, and you know, there's been a lot going on, things in the market such as, you know, the rates have been going up, mortgage rates have been going up. They're still good rates, but if you are a new person into buying a home, or if you heard during the pandemic we had rates at 2s and 3s, you're probably saying, oh my gosh, these are terrible rates, but they're really not bad rates. We're still not at the average rates of 7.77, which is the 12-ish year average, but you know, they're still good rates. And remember, now is the best time to buy, because you could always refinance when rates do come back down. I wanted to talk today about how competitive the market is right now, and it's been like this for over a year, 2 years almost. And I would say that the biggest hurdle that I think people have right now is trying to win bids in a competitive market. So when you're out there are many factors that you need to think about before you are going to be able to buy a home. You want to make sure that you are competitive, and just know that if you're in the market to buy a home, there are many, many, many people that are in the market to buy a home. We have people that are moving from other states to our area, because we have such a nice area. People love Lynchburg and they love Virginia, and they're moving from everywhere, California, Minnesota, you name it. They're
Probably
moving.
because they can't believe the great houses you can get around here for such a great price.
Yes. And they're coming here paying cash, and they're like, what? And our taxes are so much lower.
That's right.
All of those factors, you know. Because yes, when you're out in California, how much is a house? It's like a little 1,200 square foot house is probably what's $700,000.
Yep.
So they can come here and really get a steal. So you've got to be competitive in your offers. And I wanted to talk about the many ways that you can do that in this competitive market. The first thing you need to do is you need to be pre-approved. You need to go through the process of filling out an application online and getting fully pre-approved. What that means is, what we do as far as a pre-approval is concerned at Thrive Mortgages, we actually look at your pay stubs. We actually look at bank statements to see how much money you might have in the bank. We look at the credit in depth to see if there's any issues that we foresee that would inhibit you from being able to buy a home. And you do not want to go through what's called pre-qualification, because there's a big difference, is they don't necessarily look at those documents that I'm talking about. I've even heard of some people not even looking at credit. And so the biggest thing you want to do is to get pre-approved. You also want to use a local lender in your area to be pre-approved. And whatever lender that you're using, you want to use someone that is local to the area that you are moving into. For example, if you are moving from Florida to Lynchburg, Virginia, it is going to not be in your favor. Does the Hunger Games talk about this? It's not in your favor. Odds are not in your favor. That you're going to win a bid if you're using a lender in Florida. I have seen offers go awry if you're using an online lender, because sellers and other listing agents that represent the seller in these cases are not going to be necessarily, let's say, comfortable with working with an out-of-state lender or a lender online. Even though they might have a big name that's really fast, that doesn't mean that they're going to be a good lender. They're not going to be as trustworthy about that pre-approval as they would be if you're working with someone local.
I wonder if Are these online lenders using AI? Do you think, how do you know you would even be working with the person?
Right. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason why that there's been studies that have looked at these online lenders. Why do people work with online lenders? Is it convenience? You're just checking around, looking at houses online, like it's Zillow and some of the Realtor.com, and they pop up and you just go ahead and get applied right there. Well, the thing about it is we're fast and easy and convenient. So why would you, and you're talking to a person in a call center. I mean, why would you do that? And plus, if you need something 6 months from now when your loan closes, or a year from now, are you going to call that same person, Mary White over at the place online? She's not going to probably be there to answer your call. So I can't figure that part out. If we could just educate folks around using a local lender.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for everybody to work with me, but if you just use a local lender, that makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a transaction recently where the person was moving from Florida and they wanted to use a bank that they work with in Florida, a credit union. And the seller absolutely refused. They said, if you want to work with this bank in Florida, a credit union, we're not going to do business with you. Mm-hmm. And so they have the right to do that. If they don't feel comfortable, they have the right to turn down your offer, based on that. You have got to not only get pre-approved, use a local lender, but you have got to be prepared to act. And when I say prepared to act on buying a home, you may be a busy person. We're all busy, whatever you do for a living, but you've got to work it out or rearrange your work schedule or commitments to where if your realtor, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, if your realtor calls you that you're working with and says, hey, a home just popped up, we need to go look at it this afternoon. I'm sorry, but you're going to have to be prepared to go look at it right now, this afternoon. Mm-hmm. Because if it's in, say, one of the highest, I guess, the price range that is most sought after right now is under $200,000. Mm-hmm. I think it's a ton of people looking for $200,000 under that price range. So you've got to be prepared in your work schedule, home life, family schedule to be able to drop what you're doing and look at houses. It can't be, oh, let's go look on houses on Saturday. Well, that's fine. But the house that you really want today, whether it be, whatever day it may be gone by then, because houses are literally selling within 24 hours. Some stay on the market longer depending on the price and some other factors, but you've got to be prepared. You do want, it is sometimes going to be impossible to look at 3 or 4 or 5 properties at once because it's just not that kind of a market. It's not a buyer's market where multiple houses are available. You might be just looking at one house one afternoon, whatever time it is. I had even purchased a home sight unseen. So an investment property where we actually purchased it, and we trusted our realtor so much to go through it with us and video through it that we didn't even see it in person until after we made the offer.
Wow.
But it came up,
mm-hmm.
and you have to do it, and you got to have somebody you can trust. That's why I'm moving into, you've got to work with a realtor. One of the biggest complaints that I see, or let's just say, I think that misconceptions about working with a realtor is, if you're buying a home and you work with a realtor, you do not pay that realtor. You do not pay them anything to work with them here in this area. There are some situations in other states where this is changing, where you're going to have to pay your realtor part of the commission. You don't do that here. So the realtor may show you 50 houses and not get paid for any of them until they actually close on the house that you're buying. So just keep that in mind, but you need to work with one realtor that you're comfortable with. You need to find the one realtor, and if you get pre-approved and do not know of anyone, I can certainly recommend some to you. But what I see happen a lot of times is that I have a buyer that was referred to me by a particular realtor, and on a whim, that buyer happens to be going through Zillow or Realtor.com and may see a house they really want to buy, end up calling that listing agent of that house, not even calling their own agent, and get the listing agent just show them the house. So what happens is that you may trust that listing agent to show you this house, but they are not working for you. As the buyer, they are working for the seller. They're representing the seller of that house and not representing you. So really, you are not giving yourself the best that you can give yourself in those situations. So find a realtor that you're comfortable with, that you want to continue to work with, and you stick with that realtor. You don't go from realtor to realtor. You stick with that one realtor. Don't go with anybody else. The thing that I like about the realtors too, they can sometimes get you access to properties quicker than, let's say, you were trying to just find a home on your own, which is virtually impossible to find a home on your own without having representation. Because by the time you maybe see it on Zillow or Realtor.com or wherever it may be, that house may be already under contract. And plus they can give you access by calling the listing agent, get you an appointment really quickly to get in there to see it. I know that the realtors that I work with, if there's a certain list price on the house, they can do a market analysis for you to tell you exactly, is this house really worth what it's listed for? How does it compare to other sales that have gone on in the area? So they're really knowledgeable in that respect to tell you, well, maybe you should offer over list price. Maybe you should do this. And they're going to write up the offer for you. So you definitely need a great realtor to work with. That happens sometimes. Maybe the realtor doesn't respond the way you like, or maybe you just don't click. You do have to click with your realtor, and sometimes you don't, and that's fine. If you're not happy with the person you're working with, you can always call me, and we have tons of other great realtors that we work with. But stick with the one realtor and do not call the listing agent off of ads, because again, the listing agent is representing that seller in those transactions. So next thing we're going to talk about is starting with a competitive offer, especially if you expect multiple offers. And again, this is when your realtor comes in play. For example, realtor will kind of have an insight, or probably can tell you, oh, they've already called the listing agent and said, oh, wait a minute, there's already, because I talked to one yesterday. This was a $135,000 house, which I'd say over half of the population is looking in that price range right now. And the house had been listed yesterday morning, I would say. It was already 13 offers on the house. 13.
Wow.
And I was like, oh gosh. So you use your realtor as a guidance to say, you got to be competitive. So when you're ready to buy, you've got to understand what the market is. It is a seller's market. It is not a buyer's market. And you don't really want to rely on there being any wiggle room to negotiate. And when I say that, that means that, I have heard of clients that have called me and said, I really like this house. Here's the address. It's offered for $200,000, but I don't really think it's worth that. I'm going to offer $180,000. And I was like, well, suit yourself, but I'm not your realtor, but you're probably not going to get it, and, am I that realtor? No. But it's not that kind of market where you can lowball offers. It is just not there. If there are multiple houses available and less people looking, then that might be a situation where you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
But use your realtor again as a guidance for that. When I say don't rely on there being any wiggle room, that kind of also means there used to be a time, and I've done this for many years, where you could write an offer and maybe you do come in a little less than list price, or maybe you come right in at list price and just like, oh, I'm just going to offer what they're listing it for, knowing there are multiple offers, or have an inclination from your realtor that there are multiple offers on this house. Well, in this market, what I've seen is the sellers don't come back and give you a counter offer. They just say, nope, sorry, you didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to get a second chance in this war we're at right now.
You don't get to go back and forth.
You don't get to go back and forth. So you've got to go in. I tell my folks about the market initially, and I also tell them when I pre-approve them, go in with your highest and best offer. And yes, we've talked about, I do work with a great number of realtors, great realtors, and there are situations where I do have multiple offers on the same house that I'm writing pre-approval letters for.
Oh, really?
And that, in my mind, I'm like, oh no, because I want all of them to get the house.
And you're not allowed to share what anybody else is doing.
Not.
Mm-hmm.
By law, I can't share any of that, give any hints, give any inclinations. But, you already know on these particular houses, there are probably multiple offers, on this house anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I just tell them to go in with your highest and best offer. Make it as most attractive as you can make it. So that's the best advice I can give. Now, keys to making a competitive offer are, one thing that is, we've talked about, don't underbid for the house. Put your best foot forward, make your best offer. The initial offer needs the best one that you can make. Pay your own closing cost. If you go in and ask for closing cost, if you say, I don't have the money, can the seller pay $10,000 in closing cost, whatever it is, and I can figure those for you, then that's gonna give you a less advantage, because suppose an offer comes in and they don't ask for closing cost, then you're going to be at a disadvantage. Maybe you do not have a choice, then you just frankly don't have a choice. You may want to go in and offer a bid that is list price or more, and offer over and above. Say the closing costs are $10,000, the purchase price is $200,000. I'm just hypothetical numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Say you offer $210,000, so that way the seller will net $200,000, what their list price is. So they're not losing money. But now if they get a bid that with nobody paying closing costs and it's more than list price, they might take that other one. Pay a portion or all of the seller's closing costs. I've had this recently come up to where if you're getting really competitive, you could say, I'll pay my closing costs and I'll pay whatever the seller's closing costs are too. That's a good little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And seller's closing costs are not much. They're not going to be, usually it's like not even, probably 1%, not even that of the loan amount or something like that. Or the purchase price, I should say. So that might be an incentive you could do. You could offer to close quickly, and that is only available if you're probably not doing a down payment assistance loan or a USDA loan, if you're doing like a conventional regular loan, but you would need to check with your lender. We do close quickly at our office. We typically can close a loan if it's conventional within 17 business days, so we've done that. Avoid contingencies. When possible, when you're making an offer, you want to avoid asking for anything. You can't be contingent upon the sale of another house. And oh, by the way, we have a product for that called Home to Home.
You've told us about that.
Yes, not going to get into that, but no contingencies, meaning I've even seen, I don't suggest this, but I've even seen where they waive the home inspection. And they put it on the contract that, okay, the buyer is going to get a home inspection, but it's for their purposes only. They're not going to get out of the contract if it's something bad on that home inspection. I don't always advise that, but I have seen that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So no contingencies. Increase your earnest money deposit. Sometimes I've seen offers where, let's say the house is, I don't know, 200,000, and you offer like a good faith deposit that you do have to put on a contract, saying you really want to buy this house, and maybe it's like $1,000 or $5,000 to show you're really interested in this. Also assure the seller you won't ask for repairs. Again, that goes back to contingencies on home inspections. So basically, you're offering to buy the home, assuring that if there's anything wrong with it, if the home inspection that you get as the buyer comes up and there's stuff wrong with the house, that you're going to not ask for anything. That's tough.
Is it as is, basically?
As is.
Yeah.
A lot of homes are sold as is nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
If it says as is, then it's as is. That means the seller's not willing to fix anything, but no contingencies. I would include a purchase price escalation addendum. That is probably the number one thing I see that works out there in the market that we're in. So for example, you may say the purchase price is $300,000 or the listing price, and you say, well, I'm going to put an escalation clause in here, and I'm going to offer over $1,000 over every single offer up to $310,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that means if Mary writes an offer in the house and that's the last offer they have and it's $309, then you'd win, because your escalation says $1,000 over the last one up to $310.
Okay, yeah.
So you'd win the bid.
Right. And so you give your up to. That sounds like a good
They
plan.
won't know what your up to is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Behind the scenes, but they'll say up to, like, for example, if somebody's bid is $309, you've got to know, they've got to show you that the last bid was $309.
Mm-hmm.
They can't just say, oh yes, we got a bid for $309 when yours is $310. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that works all the time.
So if a bunch of people did that, it would be whoever's willing to go the highest. Up to
the highest. Now, it's got to appraise. Keep that in mind. The house has to appraise. So just because
the house can't be worth $100,000.
Right. It's got to appraise. So whatever you offer. Also, see the seller's point of view. I always say this. So if you were the seller and you were selling this house, you want to get as much as you can for the house. You don't want somebody lowballing. If you were selling the house, you want to try to get as much as you can for it. So think about it in the seller's point of view when you're buying a house. I think the biggest thing is using some of these strategies will give you the advantage when you're out there buying a house. New house on the block this week is 295 Wahoo Court, and that's located in Evington, Virginia. That just came on the market. It's listed for $220,000. It is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, nice house on over 4 acres of land. If you're looking to be a first-time home buyer, this would be a perfect house for you. It is listed by Jamie Bomar with Next Home 245, and Jamie can be reached at 434-509-8077. That's 295 Wahoo Court in Evington. I appreciate you all listening to the show today, and just to sum up, we've been talking today about how to win bids in a competitive market. And you have to think outside the box when you are writing bids in this competitive market. Now is the right time to buy, because we've talked about this. If you wait till rates maybe come down a little bit, whenever that is, you think it's competitive now, it's going to be doubly competitive in the long run. When those things happen out there, when the rates come down, you're going to have double the offers that you have right now in the market. So you're going to probably pay, we would be back to where we were like a year or 2 years ago, where we were looking, I think it was a year now, it seems like a long time ago, where people are offering 40 and 50,000 more than list price. So you don't want to do that. Now is the right time to buy, but you've got to be competitive. If you would like to reach me to get pre-approved today, I'm at 434-221-6361. You can visit my website and apply now at theloanmaven.com. Be sure to tune in to previous episodes of Loan Maven Show at our YouTube channel, The Loan Maven. And we talk every week on Saturday about all things mortgage. So we'll see you next time.